Hi, everyone. This is Jasmine from the admissions office. Welcome to the Quest webcast. This is Pomona College and QuestBridge, What Happens Next. We're here today for this hour to talk to you about what happens next in the process, answer any questions that you might have. You know, we don't have a lot of viewers right now, but we will have some pre-prepared questions just in case there are things that you'd like to know about Pomona. Go ahead and send any messages to the group chat, and that way we can see what your questions are and answer them for you. There are some more people right now, but like I said before, my name is Jasmine. I work in the Pomona College Office of Admissions, and I specifically work with the diversity program, and I work with communications. And so I've actually talked to quite a few of you, I'm sure, on the QuestBridge email. And I'm here with some Pomona College students. You can't see them right now, but I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves before we go ahead and get started with questions.
Hello, I'm Jordan. I'm a first year, and I'm from Waterville, Maine.
Hey everyone, my name's Rodrigo. I'm a senior and I'm from Miami, Florida.
Hey, I'm Yvette. I'm a second year and I'm from Kings Mountain, North Carolina.
Great. So we're here. I'm here with these Quest Scholars because we just want to have a conversation about some of the things that you might have questions about, and also just to sort of remind students that you know, just because you were not matched in the Quest match process, that doesn't mean that we don't still have students who are Quest Scholars and not matched on our campus. One of the things that we always want to reiterate to Quest students is that, you know, the majority of our students who are QuestBridge affiliated who are on Pomona's campus actually don't come into us from the match program. We have a number of students who are here who are non-finalists, who are non-match students who decided not to do the match process. And, you know, this is just a way for us to really reiterate that we're still excited to see your applications. We're still excited to see you on campus. You know, it is still a highly selective process, but about 75% of the students that are on our campus currently who are QuestBridge affiliated actually did not come in through the Quest match process. So there is still that available. And so if you are planning to apply regular decision or ED2, know that we are still here for you. We're still here to answer questions, and also that we're still really excited to see your applications. So it doesn't look like we have any questions yet. For those of you who are here now, it looks like we have a couple of viewers. You'll be able to ask questions on the chat function on the side there. Just click the group chat button on the side of your screen and you'll be able to submit there. But since it doesn't look like we have any questions yet, hi, welcome.
Hi.
Looks like we have another person joining us. So really quickly, Maria, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Maria. I'm a junior here at Pomona, and I applied ED2. And right now I'm majoring in public policy analysis with a concentration in anthro, but I'm also pre-med.
Okay, awesome. So now that we have everybody here, why don't we go ahead and start with a basic question, which is, how did you know Pomona was the school for you? We can go ahead and go starting with Yvette.
Oh, good. I'm from a small town and I've gone to small schools my whole life. And I really didn't want to change that with my university experience. I like personal connections, and I don't like walking around in a place where I feel like a stranger. I like recognizing the people around me and knowing that I have personal connections with them. So I knew I wanted to go to a small school, and Pomona is definitely on the smaller end of schools. And I knew I wanted to go to a liberal arts school versus a huge university, because while I am a science major, I wanted a well-rounded education, and I didn't want a major in education that completely forced me or really pushed me to focus solely on one field. I wanted a broad look at things. And when I came to visit Pomona, those things were there, and I really liked it. And I really liked the idea of having a Quest community. I applied regular decision. I was a finalist, but I didn't match. And then I applied regular decision. And the Quest community here didn't care that I wasn't matched, and that was really nice. I really appreciated that. Plus, there were palm trees. It's California. I'm from the East Coast, so I was used to humidity. It was really nice to have warm, sunny weather. That really sold me. All those things together really sold me on Pomona.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely hear you on the weather. I mean, I'm from Miami, so when I was applying, I applied to like all the Northeast Quest schools, and my mom was like, "Are you sure about that cold?" I wasn't sure, but I'm glad I'm here now. Looking at Pomona, I was very much looking at. I know on the Quest website at the time, I'm sure it's still there. They said that they supported undocumented students in terms of financial aid. That was definitely a factor in me applying. But looking at everything else that Pomona offers, I think the joint department of computer science with Harvey Mudd was definitely a big factor. I thought that by being part of that, I could, really get to know a lot of people, have double the resources available to me. And overall, I think it may be like different experiences than if I went to another school with, just their own CS department. They only have so much to offer. So, yeah.
I definitely knew I wanted a small liberal arts college, and I didn't know I wanted to go to Pomona until they flew me out here on the spring diversity weekend. And then I saw it for myself and realized how really cool of a place it really was.
Could you talk about what the Spring Diversity Weekend is?
Oh yeah, so I encourage everyone to apply to Pomona, and it's pretty cool. If you get in, I don't know exactly who's invited.
I can talk about it.
Okay, so I don't know exactly who's invited, but I know I was invited when I got in to, well, okay, first of all, I'm from Maine, which is like the complete opposite side of the country and like north instead of south. And so when I was selected, I was like, oh, great, I got into Pomona College. And my mom's like, which one's that one? I was like, it's the one in California. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, oh, we can't fly out on tour that, we don't have enough money to do that. And then Pomona College offered to fly me out to go see the college. And it was such an amazing experience. I got to meet the Quest network one night, and I got to meet faculty who were seemed so dedicated to students who weren't even actually their students yet. And I hadn't even had to accept to come here before. It was just I got to come see if I wanted to go there. It was a lot of fun, and I got to see the college and decided I wanted to come here. I'm trying to think of why else I wanted to come here. There were so many great reasons. It was a really good feel for me.
Oh, and just really quickly before Maria goes on, so the Spring Diversity Weekend is we send out invitations to students who sort of represent diversity in the college, and that diversity is encompassed in a lot of different ways. As a member of the diversity team, we look at diversity as not just racial and sort of geographic diversity, but also socioeconomic diversity. We look at diversity in a lot of different ways. And so that invitation is sent out to a lot of students who are coming from a lot of different backgrounds that are underrepresented in higher education. And that includes a lot of our QuestBridge students.
Hi, so I have an interesting history with Pomona in the sense that I was here for a summer college access program since I was in high school. So I kind of had some time to get to know Pomona before applying and before coming here. But I think that that's exactly why I knew Pomona was the right place for me. When I was here as a high school student, I just saw the place, and I met people here, professors, who were really committed to the success of their students and just promoting conversations that weren't really had in the spaces that I was in at that point in time. And just knowing that Pomona is also an undocumented student-friendly institution, I'm an undocumented student as well, that was also really huge. Because one, the college access program that I was in was open to undocumented students. And that was just a big factor in me wanting to even apply to Pomona. And just knowing that I would have an undocumented community on campus really made me want to be here. And I talked to people from other colleges, and they were like, yeah, we don't really have an active community for Quest students or for undocumented students. And just knowing that there were people here who share my background and who also understand what I'm going through made Pomona the right fit for me socially. But academically, I always also wanted to go to a liberal arts college. I wanted to be in a classroom where I wouldn't have more than 50 students at a maximum. I think the largest class I've been in has had 30 students, and that's because of pre-med requirements. And I think the smallest class I've had like maybe 10 people, but that's just like me for like the smallest classes. I know that there's like people who've been in classes that have 5 people. So I knew that I wanted to be at a place that was dedicated to opening up spaces for me in the classroom and outside.
So we're going to go ahead and answer first some of the questions that we've been getting on the chat. First off, great stuff. These are all things that a lot of students really love about our campus, and there's a lot of other reasons. We really encourage you, if you have questions about why it is that students chose Pomona, the best people to reach out to learn more about that are students on campus. And if you email us at questbridge@pomona.edu or admissions@pomona.edu, we can get you in contact with those students. If you want to know more about what life is like here as an undocumented student or as a student who is coming from far away, those are all things that we have students here who are experiencing that who can tell you more about it. So the question that I want to answer first is from Joanna, who is asking, how is financial aid through regular decision for Pomona different from the National College Match Scholarship? And also, what expenses is this aid able to cover? So since I'm coming from the admission side, I'm going to go ahead and answer that first. So what I have to say about our financial aid process is a little bit more general, but basically what we're able to offer is scholarships that offer 100% of demonstrated need. And so what that means is that when you fill out, we ask for the FAFSA and the CSS profile. A lot of you have already submitted those, but when you submit those, you get an expected family contribution. And if your expected family contribution is whatever that amount is, we will cover tuition and room and board and some expenses on top of that up to that point. And so for students who need to have no expected family contribution, we don't provide loans. We're not asking you for loans. We're providing fully scholarships that are given through our Office of Financial Aid, through alumni funds, through our endowment, or if you have state or federal funding, we're using that as well. If you bring in scholarships, we're using that as well. And that goes out of your Pomona scholarship first and work study and things like that. And so you'll find that for students who have full demonstrated need, their scholarships are looking very similar to those of QuestBridge students because we cover most of what that scholarship covers as well, which means that students who apply to us through QuestBridge are getting very similar scholarships through that if they have full demonstrated need that they need met. And to learn more about what your financial aid package looks like, because it's a really individualized process, the best thing that I can recommend as someone in admissions is to actually go onto our financial aid website. Use something called our financial aid calculator. This uses really specific formulas. It uses really specific financial information. Put in as accurate information as you can into that. And then when you figure out what it says, you can contact our Office of Financial Aid and have them give you more information according to that much more specialized number that you've gotten, which is that expected family contribution. And they can help you figure out what a financial aid package will actually look like instead of you just sort of looking at a chart and trying to figure it out from that. So that's the financial aid question. I have some other questions that are from students that are more about the student side for you all. So I think, Rodrigo, you were talking about connections with Harvey Mudd.
Right.
Andrew asks, how connected is Pomona with the other schools like Claremont McKenna and Harvey Mudd?
Hey, that's an awesome question. I love talking about that. I think up to now, now I've been able to finally take at least one class in all of the 5 Cs. So I think the integration between all of the 5 campuses is very heavy. Sometimes there are some majors that place some restrictions. So for example, economics, I'm an economics major. You're only allowed to take 2 credits outside of Pomona's campus, which I used during my study abroad experience. But lots of other majors are completely intercollegiate. So you're allowed to take lots of classes at another campus. For example, I study a lot of German, and that's joined with Scripps. So I've taken quite a few classes at Scripps. I also did an independent study with a teacher from Pitzer who she didn't know me, but she had worked with a friend of mine. And he, set up a meeting. We talked about what we both wanted to study. She was great. And overall, we had a great experience. She was very supportive. Like I said, she didn't really know me. I didn't have a class with her beforehand. But I think overall in Claremont, teachers, professors are very, very friendly and very welcoming. I took a literature class on Dante at Claremont McKenna. Yeah, I think that covers all of them. And like I said, computer science at Harvey Mudd, I took 2 courses there. So overall, you really do get the opportunity to take lots of courses throughout the 5 Cs. And that's not including like opportunities to live on the other colleges or going to the other dining halls, 5C clubs and activities. And there's so many things to talk about in that realm.
Awesome. The next question I actually want to throw to whoever wants to answer it. I can certainly answer it from an admissions perspective, but it is, I never discovered Pomona until I applied to QuestBridge. Do you all have any ideas for what's the best place to learn more about Pomona, where to start that research?
Y'all done this more recently than I have.
I mean, I'm in sort of the same boat. To be completely honest, I was not a match. I was not selected for the match at any of the schools I applied to for match. I was looking, I was like, oh, what schools, what other schools can I apply to that are QuestBridge affiliated? I know they're great schools. I applied to Pomona before I knew anything about it except its location and that it was a small liberal arts college. And so when I have to say, I learned a ton when I came out on diversity weekend. Where you could learn, obviously Pomona College's website, but I think where I really got to know just the basics before coming out here and experiencing it for myself there should be a little snippet on the QuestBridge website itself and just about the basic information on Pomona. And, but of course, like Jasmine said, she can put you in touch with a student and you can ask more about what their experience is like. And I think that's the best way since they're the individual who's had the experience. They're not the ones who are putting information on the website. They're just the ones who are actually here with the experience.
Awesome. That's a great answer. For the next question that we have, how engaged is Pomona with the community? Are students able to start their own volunteering at /aid organizations? Does anybody?
I'll take that. Yeah. So Pomona is very particular in the way that we actually have a center that's dedicated to community partnerships. It's called the Draper Center for Community Partnerships, and they have different programs that reach out to the community outside of Claremont. They have tutoring programs that are actually led by students, and most of them have been initiated by students. And it's not just tutoring, but also community engagement of different ways, helping people who are less fortunate, having food drives, and just a whole bunch of different aspects of community engagement with other communities beyond just this little bubble that we find ourselves sometimes in. And a lot of students have actually taken the initiative to start brand new programs in the last couple of years. One of them is called Indigenation, and that's helping Indigenous students apply through college and tutoring them. I have a few friends who are also engaged in PACE, which is a college access program that I was in. And it's pretty much high school students from the area who become kind of summer students here at Pomona and are mentored by current students who become TAs and RAs for the summer. And we also have different just college access programs and just a whole bunch of different things. And it's really, really amazing. And I know that there's students who also are part of smaller organizations that are not affiliated with the Draper Center. And some students have actually taken initiatives to actually help out the Standing Rock camps over the past few weeks, and also mobilizing for different political causes, protection for marginalized communities and the recent events that have happened. So there's a lot of opportunities here on campus to be involved and engaged.
Yeah, of course.
Another opportunity that you might have is community partnership courses. So the Draper Center helps set up classes that directly engage the community. So for example, this semester, I'm taking a course called Community Partnership Tennis. So there's, I believe, 12 students or so that we all go out on Monday and Wednesdays, and we help teach tennis to youth in nearby elementary schools. In previous semesters, I did another course called, I think it was Religion, Ethics, and Social Practice. And part of that was working with a community-based organization from the area and thinking very critically about what it means to work with a community besides just volunteering and helping.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything to add? Yeah.
also like to say that the students, even like not working through the Draper Center, but working directly with their departments. I know in the physics department, it's not an unknown fact that physics is mainly a white male field in the upper echelons, whatever. And so the physics students got together and created a cohortship to encourage students to stay in the physics major who were interested or were starting to take classes by providing a support network for the underrepresented students that were in these courses. And I was a part of that, and it was really helpful. And then also next semester, we're on course to create a social justice and STEM reading kind of club, but also taking action in the physics department and other departments, starting the physics department, but also spreading out to the math department because we share the same building. And just making sure the students and the faculty who are involved are very socially aware. There's kind of this myth that the sciences are super objective and that politics doesn't affect science, and there's not like social constructions that take into or influence who can participate in science. And so there's lots of student-led work within departments to counteract things like that.
Awesome. The next question that we have is, and this is for anyone because it applies to all of you. What is the community and social atmosphere like at Pomona? It's a broad question. If anybody wants to go first. And you can just speak for your own experience.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's really been what I make of it at different points in time. I know my first year, I wasn't very involved or engaged with a lot of people. I was just really consumed by my classes. I was like, first gen, low income, undocumented student trying to like do the pre-med track, and I threw myself into like 2 science courses like for my whole first year. So that was like really a lot, and I didn't really socialize. But I think my second year, like different things were happening on campuses across the country. I don't know if you remember, Black Lives Matter like took off during that year, also on campuses across the country, like Pomona being one of them. And I think that was like where I started to find more of what I wanted to do here. Because for me, social justice has always played like a huge part in my life, or in the way that I think and the way that I frame my academic interest. So when that was happening, like I found a lot of friends who were really interested in the things that I was interested in, and also participating in different communities and different activities and just like organizations on campus. And I think that ever since, a lot of us have found ways to become kind of like very involved, just like here. Like we created our first Latinx Alliance specific to Pomona. So we have this group now that is like supposed to be, and it acts as a safe space for students, but it's also becoming more politicized. And it really is what you want to make of it. And there are spaces that are not political, if that is not something that you want to do, because that's also something that happens a lot of the time. Like even if you are like facing a lot of different things, like for your own sake, you may choose to disengage in different ways. And that is also something that we have here. So yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one other person wants to say something. If you don't, we have other questions.
They're just fun things to do too. So it's not just like political and social.
Yeah, we do have parties. We do have, you know, the whole thing. And if parties aren't your thing, I think Pomona and overall the 5 Cs, I found more accepting of not joining the party culture far more than I expected. So I know first and second year, I did like to go out a lot. I'm doing like the whole like college thing. But you know, like eventually, at least I was a little tired of it, and I just found myself trying to do other things, like maybe like staying in and just watching a movie, or like doing something in like the nearby, we call it the Village. It's like, you know, like shops and like eateries and stuff. And you're just like walking around, and you know, nobody really judges you for choosing to do whatever you want to do. I think the idea is as long as you are not, you know, imposing your the way you do things on like others, everything's pretty chill.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So the next question that we have is from Michelle. What particular traditions at Pomona do you find the most intriguing?
Oh, intriguing.
Oh, fountaining. Fountaining,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
wild. I mean, of all, if you're gonna fountain at a university or a college, it should be one that's in Southern California because you're gonna
What's fountaining?
right. Fountaining is when on your birthday, the midnight of that, starts your birthday, your friends or your sponsor group, which is a group of people that you live with first year, like the surrounding dorms. I'm getting into way too much lingo. Fountaining. The midnight of your birthday, they take you to one of the fountains at Pomona and they dump you in. Not against your will,
Right, yeah.
but
Don't be scared to come here.
no. It's fun. It's weird. If you've never heard of it, but it's fun and it makes you feel like you're a part of something. Bring a towel.
Any other traditions of note?
Well, there was like, I don't even know where it started, but there's this like really big thing here with the number 47, and it's gotten to the point where it's a little bit annoying. You can, there's like a Wikipedia article about the pop culture of 47 and its relation to Pomona College, and it's just like, it's ridiculous. But like, so we've like kind of like learned to see 40, like I see 47 everywhere now. I don't know. It was like a math department thesis at one point, and it just got really out of hand. But it's kind of a thing about our college, I guess. I don't know.
Awesome. Those are all great traditions. So for the next question we have, this is an admissions question. So I'm going to ask to answer this one. So the admissions question that we have is from Eduardo. Does Pomona have any preference for between the QuestBridge app and the Common App for national college match finalists? Is one held with more weight during the selection process? So when we are looking at these applications, we actually give you the option, and you should definitely, when you're looking at QuestBridge schools, we all have different requirements. Some schools do require you to submit the common application. Some may require their own application. We actually don't require you to submit anything other than the QuestBridge application. You do have to submit what's called the Pomona Program Selection Form for QuestBridge applicants. It's a really long name, but you've been sent a link. If you check your email, you've received emails with us, probably a couple by now, that have that link on there. If you don't have it, you can always email us and get that link. But if you submit that and you choose to submit the QuestBridge application, we'll read that. If you submit a common application or what's called the coalition application, which is a separate application that just started this year, if you submit either of those, we will read the last one that you submitted. So if you submit a common application and you submit the QuestBridge application, we'll only read the common application. And the same thing with coalition. We'll only read that last one that is sent by the deadline, January 1st, which is the deadline for early decision 2 and regular decision. In terms of which one we want to see more, we don't have a preference. For some students, we find that with the QuestBridge application, you get a lot more room to talk about your life. You get a lot more room to sort of dig deeper into some other questions. For some students, that is really beneficial. You feel like you get a much better understanding of who you are personally. For the common application and coalition, there are some other strengths. For some students, they find that they might be able to talk about their academics a little bit more, but you might have talked about that in QuestBridge to begin with. So if you feel really confident in your QuestBridge application, if you think this is really encompassing who I am, then it's a great application to send in. But if you feel like, oh, maybe I want to talk about some things a little bit more, there's parts of me that I want to highlight that I didn't get a chance to highlight in the QuestBridge app. Maybe you didn't have enough time to really highlight who you were in that application. I know it's due really early. I did QuestBridge myself many years ago, and so I do actually know the struggle personally. But it is something that is really up to you. We have students who come in who have only sent us that QuestBridge app, who decide to do Common App, who have done all of these different things. So it's really up to you to decide what it is that makes the most sense. And if you do decide to do the QuestBridge application, we have what's called a Pomona specific supplement essay. You can find the question for that on our website. And if you decide, I really like my QuestBridge app, but I also want to submit an extra essay, which if you want to, you definitely can. You can just email that essay to questbridge@pomona.edu, and that'll be uploaded to your application. So that's something that you do have an option to do. The next question that we have is about study abroad. So awesome. Yeah, study abroad's great. So the question is, what are study abroad programs offered at Pomona? What are they like? So has anybody here done study abroad?
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Old timer here. Okay. So there's a good number of different programs that you can choose from. Some of them really give you an option to choose what you want to study during those programs. So I think if you go to some in Northern Europe, you're just like at a university and you choose the courses you take. Each major works differently. In my case, I had to make sure that the courses that I was going to take while I was abroad could get me the credit that I needed towards graduation. And there are programs that are very oriented towards one specific discipline. So I think in South Africa, you have one that's specifically for environmental analysis. In Germany, I was in southern Germany in Freiburg. I did a program that was specifically for politics and economics. I think there are lots of other different programs that are language specific. There are programs that are only in English. You really get to choose what you want. And if the program that's already pre-approved by Pomona, which you can find on the website, that you want to do isn't listed on there, you can petition to do your own program. Credits don't work the same way in that case, but you still get the experience, that you went abroad for a semester, maybe a year, which I highly, highly, highly recommend.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody have anything else to add about study abroad?
Well, I haven't studied abroad, but I do know some friends who have. And even if Pomona doesn't have a particular program that's been approved before, you can petition for it. So yeah, that's something really, really nice and useful. And they do the same thing for some majors too.
Awesome. And one last thing that I'll add is just in terms of, how many students do study abroad. It is something that about half of our students actually do, half of Pomona students, and it's usually done during your junior year. Some students do a semester, some students do a full year, and you have the option to sort of choose programs according to that. But it is a pretty popular option, and it's not just for particular majors. It's not barred from students who are doing pre-med or anything like that. It's something that's pretty open. The next question that we have is, let's see, what are entrepreneur resources like? Do any of you have experience with, or have friends who have experiences with that?
About that. There are a couple of organizations on campus dedicated to that. So you have Pomona Ventures, which is a group dedicated specifically towards fostering student startups. They help you either come up with an idea, develop the idea that you have. They have an event called Sage Tank. I think they're still doing that annually. It's basically like Shark Tank, which you see on TV, where you have, on Shark Tank, you have already like rich investor people. But here you have some alumni, you have people that have done startups while they were students, basically people that have gone through like the whole entrepreneurship process, and you get to pitch your idea and your business plan to them. If you win, I think you do get some small partnerships. And if you don't, you still get to talk to them, get their feedback, work with them on polishing your idea. I think there are other things in the 5 Cs, especially Claremont McKenna. They have one that I think is specifically for social entrepreneurship. So if you have a business idea that's specifically geared towards improving something in society, they can work with you as well. I think they have an annual forum where you have a lot of speakers come and they discuss different things related to social entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Any others?
I don't know quite how entrepreneurial this is, but I know that at Harvey Mudd, and I'm signed up for this engineering course next semester at Harvey Mudd, there's programs, courses that you work with companies, so you get to make connections with businesses. They give the Harvey Mudd and these schools projects that they want their students to work on, and as a Pomona student, you can go do that and collaborate with Harvey Mudd students and make those connections with businesses and work on an independent project with them, whatever their problem. It's typically an engineering thing, and on one project you'll be assigned with like different people with different engineering specialties. Sounds like a really cool collaborative process. My friends that are in the class this semester said it will consume your life in a good way.
So the next question is from Diana, who asks, what are your favorite clubs at Pomona? Does anybody have an answer?
Okay, so back home, I did everything that was possible to do with music. So I'm heavily involved in like everything music here. So, okay, let's see. I really like music. Okay, we get that. So I do, so there are ensembles on campus. So Pomona College has a band. So, you know, if you remember high school band, except it's kind of similar to that. And we also have an orchestra, which is like actually really, really good. Our director said the difference between us and a professional orchestra is that we can play anything because we get to choose, where a professional orchestra has a board to look up to. So like we have like a really incredible orchestra. I'm not part of the jazz ensemble this semester, but I will be next semester. So when I came out here, I didn't get to see any of the performances, so I didn't realize how good the music program was. And I was like, oh, that's something really important to me. I love music. And then when I actually came here to come to school, I was pleasantly surprised that it's a very good program. And then, so those are all like, so they're not really clubs, but they kind of have their own social communities within them, but you can actually take them for credit. They get half a credit each. And then I also take lessons. My teacher for lessons is, she's won Grammys. It's like incredible. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that's like a class more. And then also one of the clubs I'm very happy to be a part of is the Pomona College Musicians Coalition. So in one of the dorms, we get a room in the basement that is not quite soundproof, but almost. And there are guitars, bass, keyboards, drums, PA system, mics. So pretty much for like any student bands, like those of you who are interested in music, but not like the classical stuff that I've been doing, can play down there. And I'm also part of that. And I just did a gig at Scripps last night, which wouldn't have been possible to prepare for without using the space from the Musicians Coalition. So it's like a whole bunch of instruments you can play for free. So it's a pretty cool deal.
I think I have like 3 different groups that I really, really enjoy, and one of them is Quest. Because amazing. A lot of my friends are also Quest, and I feel like it's just one of those groups that are very dedicated to building community and actually fostering spaces for you to have conversations or just like hang out and do work together and just like have study sessions during finals and everything. And it's just really fun. And the other one is Latinx Alliance. I'm one of the co-presidents for that. And like, not only do we talk about our identities, but also we host really great parties. It's like, if you've ever been to a quinceañera, it's like going to a quinceañera. And ideas, which is like geared towards undocumented students and allies. And I don't know, those are like full and filled with like really amazing people. So
Yeah. Anyone else want to share their favorite clubs? No?
Yeah.
Yours is what?
Quest number 1.
Quest is my favorite club.
What's the club?
Quest.
Oh, okay.
QuestBridge.
Do you want to talk about it a little
Oh, I mean, yeah, we do. I think Maria touched on this earlier, but Quest is really active on this campus. And one of the things that's kind of alienating about higher education, that even if you get financial aid at other places, when you get in, there's not really a community for you because everything costs money.
Mm-hmm.
But Quest subsidizes or covers lots of activities. Like last week, we went ice skating. I'm not done that. That was really hard, but it was free and it was fun to do with my friends. And there's lots of dinners. Pomona has this cabin an hour away called Halona. That's really cool. That's kind of a bougie thing I never thought I'd be able to do, like have a cabin in the woods. Well, not good. Well, a cabin retreat. Yeah, Quest does lots. You go camping. Like they just, it makes it easier to have that stereotypical college experience where you try new things because there's not the stress or the anxiety of having to cover the cost. So it's really nice. Plus the people.
The next question is, how accessible are the arts for students that couldn't really afford to do it during middle school and high school? Has anybody had experience with art classes or art programs here?
This is visual arts?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know visual arts.
Okay,
right.
I can talk a little bit about visual arts. I haven't done them myself, but someone close to me is very involved with that. I think they are very accessible in terms of you can get into the classes and you can participate in them, especially on Pomona's campus. Sometimes at the other 5Cs, they will have some fees that might not be covered by financial aid. But here on campus, they are pretty accessible. The problem is they do take a lot of time. I think all Pomona classes really expect you to put as much effort as you can into them. So even introductory level classes will require maybe 6, 7, 8 hours of work per week outside of class. But in terms of like the resources and the materials, they're pretty accessible.
Awesome. The next question is, what happens if you're undecided for your major?
I can talk about that. So when I came to Pomona, I came in as a mobile major, and that didn't work out because I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do. And it wasn't like I had declared, and that's the beauty of going to a liberal arts college. You don't have to declare. Like, you're not accepted based on what major you are, like you are at different like research universities or just like bigger universities or colleges. So Pomona really lets you come in and explore different things. We have area requirements. I think we have 7 now, where like it spans across the sciences, arts, social sciences, math, and all these different like nice areas. And you can take classes in them like your first year or so, and you actually don't have to declare your major until the end of your sophomore year. Or if you are still undecided like me, until like later in your junior year. Like I just declared like 2 weeks ago. So I went through a huge phase of like not knowing what I wanted to do just because I had so many interests. So I went from mobile to sociology, and then I went back to like biology, and then I was like, no, not really. That's not what I want to do. And then I explored a little bit of public policy analysis with the bio concentration. But that also wasn't what I wanted to do. And I was like, let me create my own major, which Pomona lets you do, or just like create different concentrations. But that also didn't work out just because there were going to be too many requirements. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it on time. So I just like ended up doing something that I really still really liked that still encompasses a lot of what I wanted to do since the beginning. So there's like room for growth and exploring. So yeah.
Awesome. The next question is, could you talk about research opportunities at Pomona? Are they easily accessible? Is there good cooperation between students and professors?
I haven't done research.
Yeah, I haven't done research either, but not because it's not accessible. I honestly feel a little left out because I feel like most of my friends have done research, especially those in STEM sciences. I know the first summer, I'd say like half of my circle of friends were on campus doing all sorts of different research in biochem and physics. A very good friend of mine is always doing math research. I don't know what that is, but but yeah, overall, I think it does seem, as somebody that has specifically chosen not to do research, it's very accessible. Where I've had professors in the economics department say, hey, are you still looking for research opportunities? I'm like, not really, sorry. So yeah, the opportunities are there.
Yeah, something else that Pomona does is that professors are very accessible, and a lot of them have funding to pay students to do research with them. A lot of my friends have actually been like involved in research like here on campus. But the other thing that Pomona also does is that it allows you and it pays you to go do research at other institutions if you choose to during the summer. So they will like have a general application for you to fill out, and they will ask you if you have a mentor somewhere else. And if you do, and if you have like kind of like a general idea of what you want to do there, they will pay you for that research. Like my first summer, it was kind of paid through Pomona, not really. It was like an interesting connection that was made through one of my professors. I ended up doing research at the pharmacology department at the School of Medicine at UCSD, which is like one of the biggest departments in the world. So I got to do research with like top-notch like institutions with like amazing like scientists. that have a lot of prestige attached to them, and they ended up paying me. And I know that's also true for a lot of like different students on campus, but also doing research here is something that plays a huge role in the sciences mainly. And I know that it's also something in the social sciences. Like I think next semester, one of my professors and my advisor now is conducting a project on free speech in academic spaces for anthropology, and I will also be involved in that. And again, like different professors like have different interests that you can kind of tap in and try to like coordinate to match your own.
Awesome. So the next question that we have is a little bit about admissions. So the question is, how does citizenship play a part in getting accepted and financial aid? Would DACA students be considered international applicants or domestic applicants? So that's definitely an admissions question. So the way that we look at all students is what you have to remember is that we are looking at any student who graduates from high school in the US as a domestic applicant. So that answers the second part of your question. If you are an undocumented student, if you are a resident, if you are an international student who is going to a high school in the US, if you fit in under any of those categories, under our process, you're considered a domestic student, which isn't the same as what some other colleges are able to do. We're lucky enough to be able to consider all students who graduate from high school in the US domestic. That also means that all students who are applying are considered in our admissions process in the same way. When you're read, everyone is read need blind, which means that you are read as a student who we don't have to look at your financial aid when we're looking at your application. That's something we're lucky enough to be able to do. And that is true for all domestic students. If you are a true international student, which means that you are a student who has international citizenship, who is going to a high school internationally, then you will be considered an international student. And in that case, we will have to read your application need aware, which is looking at how much financial aid you will need. So that's the important distinction to make there. But in terms of undocumented and DACA students, they're able to get the same financial aid as any other student in our pool. The way that we do that is domestic students who are residents or citizens are able to access things like federal funding and state funding, and the same is not always true, especially it's not true at all for federal funding, but for some undocumented or some DACA students are able to get state funding from their state, depending on the policies that are in place there. Even if you have that funding, we'll take that funding. If you don't have that funding, we provide that funding through private scholarships that are given by the college. And so that's how the process works for us. And these, in terms of being undocumented, I know sometimes students are afraid to disclose. We don't release that information. And so that's not something that you have to worry about us sending to someone else. And so that's the answer to that question. The next one that we have, we're running a little bit low on time, so I want to make sure I get to all of these questions. The next one that we have is about roommates. The question is, how does Pomona match students to roommates? Do you have to have a roommate freshman year? And what are the dorms like? So there's a lot there.
I'm a head sponsor, so I can
Oh,
talk about
awesome.
that. So Pomona does this thing called sponsor groups. And that pretty much means that you have like a community that you live with for your first year. And I'm a head sponsor. That means that I'm in charge of kind of like forming those communities and like reading housing forms. You do have to fill out a housing form after you commit to Pomona. And there you talk about what times you go to sleep, what your interests are, like when you study, and like if light bothers you at night, if you want a roommate. And if like, I think about 1/3 of Pomona's rooms are singles and the rest are doubles. So we like read, like if you really, really don't want a roommate, you can let us know and we will try our best to accommodate. But other people really do want to have a roommate too. So we try to match it with people that we think you'd be compatible with. And that's kind of how we do it. Like it's student run, like just like the matching students, like different halls and different roommates. And after we have roommates, we actually move on to halls and to a sponsor, which is a second year mentor. You have 2 per hall. And we just like try to match you to their personalities, their interests, if we see that you can be a good fit for that hall. and just like be compatible with everyone else in the hall. Like obviously, like sometimes things don't really work out because y'all are different and you don't really disclose everything that you should in your housing forms. And again, that's your fault, not ours. I will remove myself from blame. But as long as you give us all the information that you want to give us and you want us to take into consideration when giving you a roommate, we will do the best job that we can. And if you disclose everything, we usually end up not having like roommate conflicts. It works out really, really well.
Does anybody want to talk about what their first year dorms, maybe you guys were a little bit closer or actually in your first year dorms?
Sorry, you go ahead.
One thing that really scared me, because I'm from the East Coast and there's air conditioning or like central air climate control everywhere. It really scared me that a lot of Pomona dorms didn't have AC, because I'm like, this is hot. How are you not gonna have air conditioning? And while the beginning of the school year and the end of the school year, I lived in a dorm without air conditioning my first year. And while the beginning was pretty toasty and the end was pretty toasty, I realized you really don't need it. It's not that if you have a fan, if you have air, it's more about the circulation, I realize, and the temperature of it. And there are, even in the buildings that don't have air conditioning, they circulate the air. They just don't like change the temperature of it. It's usually fine. I kind of forgot that this is a desert area, so it's really cool at night. It's not hot and stuffy like it can be in the South. Just so you know, if you're scared about that. And there's always air-conditioned spaces available to you. And especially, I think if it gets particularly hot at night, they'll open up the air-conditioned spaces for you to sleep in if you want to. But I never needed to do that, so.
Awesome. Any other?
I got a single my first year.
You were a single your first year?
Yeah, it was awesome. So that definitely does happen. I specifically asked for a single. I think in my form I said, I'm a single child. I've been like spoiled all my life. I'm just kidding. But, you know, I'm not used to sharing a closed space with anybody, thankfully. And so it worked out. And I think that really helped make my first year an easier transition.
Mm-hmm. I have a really quick question that I can give an answer to really quickly, so I'm just going to do that. The question is, what is the latest standardized test that can be considered for admissions? December. For both the ACT and the SAT, the latest test that you can take, and it'll still be considered for submission, is in December. And we have a variety of ways that we will accept those test scores. Just email the QuestBridge admissions email, questbridge@pomona.edu, and you'll receive a list in our frequently asked questions of the many ways that you can submit those test scores, because you have more options than just submitting the official test scores. You can submit with an official test score sticker on your transcript. You can submit with the official score report that's sent to your counselor, if that's signed by your counselor and sent to us. And then you can also submit your test scores that are sent officially from QuestBridge. So the next question that I have is Andrew, who wants to know, specifically, Andrew is coming from Philly, where he's lived his whole life, and he's worried that he'll miss access to a city. What's the village like, and maybe what's experience around here? Anybody?
I can talk to that. I'm not sure if I'm talking too much. But okay, I've always lived in big cities myself as well. And that is one thing that I think I wish was better about Pomona. The village is rather small. I think it's maybe like 1 square mile or so. And you do have like little shops and stuff where you can go. There's some good restaurants, albeit a little expensive. So sometimes it gets a little boring for my taste here. At least you do have the opportunity to jump on the train, which is literally like a couple of blocks away from Pomona, and you just jump on and you go straight to LA. And there, you know, you have basically whatever you want. I think specifically on weekends, probably when it's most accessible, because it's a $10 all-day pass. So you jump on the train, and when you get to LA, you use that same ticket to take all the other public transportation that's available, and that'll get you to at least most of the like touristy places, and at least give you like a good pass to see whatever you want to see that day.
I'll say that. So I've lived in California since I came to the US, which was like 9 to 10 years ago. And the thing about California is that it's really spread out. Like we don't really think about it that way. And like we think that LA is close to everything. And that's not always true. And just like you are going to spend some time and like getting to places. But when you get to LA, there's like a lot of different things to do. Like our beaches are some of the best in the country. Like it's always summer weather. So there's always something you can do as long as you find the time. So that's the one thing I would say. And there's like also really good like food places in the areas in Pomona, which is going a little bit west from Claremont, and also Montclair and Chino and everything, which is going a little bit east. So if you can like get a zip card throughout the week, you can have like really amazing food. And there's also like small nightclubs like nearby. So it's not always that. It's just like you gotta find the time and the transportation.
And the bus system. There's buses from here to Montclair, and like the buses can take you to Target or the mall for only $125 per there and back.
Yeah. I also just want to make a really quick aside. I actually grew up in the city of Pomona, so I grew up about 3 miles from here. I've lived here basically my whole life until I went to college, and you know, it is definitely much more. This area is a little bit quieter. It doesn't always feel like the hustle and bustle of like Los Angeles. It's not going to be just like walking out of your dorm. You're right at the edge of a city. But there is something to be said for having that environment where you have small communities that are nearby. You have a lot more family-oriented stuff. If you want to go to concerts, one of the things that sometimes students don't realize is the city of Pomona actually has a lot of really cool concerts in the downtown area. There's this place called the Glass House. They host a lot of really cool things. I've been there many times in my life. And so, you know, there's a lot of little sort of hidden gems around here. But then when you do want to have access to sort of the big city, you kind of have this in between where it's not too far away. For a small liberal arts college, it is really accessible because it is about an hour away. And it's a place that you can go to sort of have these different adventures. The next question that we have is, does Pomona's atmosphere feel competitive or tense?
No.
I wish that we had seen your reaction to that.
That's what I was really scared of in a university. And one of the main reasons I wanted to go to a small place, because I always feel personally, and I feel like this is true for most people or a lot of people, a collaborative environment is much more productive than a competitive environment. So when I'm in the classroom, I'm not scared to ask, especially in physics, right? Because that's really a daunting subject, especially like considering the demographics. But I'm not really scared to ask the person next to me because I know that we're not competing for research positions. The school is small enough and the departments are usually small enough where it's more important to form community than to try to have a better GPA or anything like that. I think GPA really only matters if you're trying to go to grad school, and that depends on the grad school you're going to.
Yeah. And I think the only really important thing is that we don't grade on a curve at all. Like you get whatever grade you earn. And even then, like there's, if anything, we have kind of like a system where everyone like gets the chance to have time with professors, and we have learning communities. So it's like mentor sessions, and you break up into smaller groups and you help each other out like with your friends. I was in organic chemistry last fall, and I will say that that's been the hardest class I've ever taken at Pomona, and I hope it is the hardest class I will ever take anywhere. But a lot of my friends were in it, and it was just really, well, I made friends in the class. And it was just really nice to have someone that I could go to and study with at the end of the day, and knowing that if I didn't understand something, they could maybe help me out, and vice versa. And just like having mentors everywhere that are very accessible, like they're mostly your peers. And yeah, like I don't think I've ever found anyone, even less in pre-med, who's very, very competitive. Like everyone wants to do well. Like that is something that I think is notable, but no one wants to see you fail. And that's something that I've witnessed here. Like everyone is like constantly checking up on each other. They're like, are you doing well? Are you okay? Like, is this too hard? Do you need me to explain this? Like sometimes you don't even have to ask them directly. They will offer to help. And well, we reciprocate by doing the same.
I'm going to answer 2 admissions questions before I throw it over to one of the final student questions that we have today. So So the questions that we have are, can I submit transcripts and standardized test scores before QuestBridge sends my application, or should I wait for Pomona to have an application on file? So if you remember, I talked about that Pomona program selection form for QuestBridge applicants, the form with the really long name that you've received the link for. If you fill out that form, you should have filled out that form. If you haven't decided if you're going to do early decision 2 or regular decision, or if you're going to apply, that's fine. But just make sure you send that in before the deadline. But if you've already sent it in, we will be getting your application from QuestBridge eventually. But you can definitely feel free to send us those transcripts and test scores as soon as you have them. We have a system on file where we attach, once we get those transcripts and test scores from you, we will eventually attach them all to your application all at once. And so you don't have to worry about them getting lost somewhere. We have a system, we figure it out. And so you can send those to us as soon as you have them. I would actually recommend sending them as soon as you have them, just because it's one less thing that you have on your checklist. You have a lot of things to be doing right now. On top of applications, you have your senior year, which I know it's hard to do, but you should be enjoying as well as working hard. Yeah, but definitely make sure that you send those as soon as you can, just because it just sort of gets that out of your mind, and you don't have to worry about scrambling around December 31st or anything like that to get them in. And then the second question is, do you think it would be weird / extra / annoying to send in a letter of continued interest in the form of a video? So the problem with sending in a video is that we don't really have the capability to sort of look through it with our application system. If you send a video through the coalition, we do, but that would require sending in an extra application. If you just wanted to send a video, you can definitely try to send something like that to your specific admissions officer. And we do read your application by territory, which means that we read your application based on what high school you go to and where that high school is located. So for example, I read all applicants from the state of Colorado. I read all applicants from San Diego, and that includes basically Temecula down, if you're familiar with the region. And I also read Maryland and Virginia, as well as Idaho and Wyoming. And so I read all of those different areas. If you want to know who your admissions officer is, you can go onto our website and look it up right there. It'll have, some of them are split up. So for example, parts of California, we split up into many, many different regions, and everyone in our office reads a part of California. And so you'll find that those are split up maybe a little bit more specifically, but you can send that video to your admissions officer, but I can't guarantee that they'll be looking at it when they look at your application. So I would highly recommend, if you want to get more information onto your application, to send in an additional information in the form of an email. That's easier to attach to your application and therefore ensure that it is actually read with your application. So the last question that I'm going to answer, because unfortunately we're running out of time, is someone had a question about intramural sports. And so could you talk a little bit more about athletic culture at Pomona and intramural sports as part of that as well? If anybody has taken part or has friends who have taken part.
Yeah, okay. So I haven't done IM myself just because, I don't know, it's not my thing. But I know a lot of people get really into it. Like I have a group of friends that always do the intramural soccer tournament, and they really, really love it. There's soccer, volleyball, I think some other water sports, basketball, football. You really get to see like you get a good range of options, and I'm sure you can find more information about that on the athletics website. In terms of athletic culture, that I guess I can't really quite speak to, but there is one. There certainly is one. I don't know if anybody wants to add.
One thing that I think is pretty cool, not exactly intramural sports, but a more relaxed type of athletic thing is Pomona's physical education requirement. So I haven't taken a PE course yet, but next semester I'm taking tennis here and beginning tennis, yeah. And I'm actually taking cricket, which is a joint physical education program among the colleges. I think it's at Claremont McKenna. And I'm really excited for that. I was going to do bowling And like there are some that require fees, but even if they require fees, if they're a Pomona PE class, then the financial aid office can cover those fees. So it's really cool. It's a great way to stay physically active. I know I haven't been doing that enough this semester, so I'm glad there's an opportunity to do it next semester.
Yeah, I can add a little to that too. That's the way I do sports as well, where I just take the PE that I want this semester. I'm taking beginner tennis, and it's been so much fun. You still get some really good matches in without anybody being like, oh, you're supposed to be competitive about it. And next semester, since I'm about to graduate and I got all my requirements in on time, I'm taking intermediate tennis, karate, and another sport I forgot. But anyway, yeah, you do get like the opportunity to do lots of different things, whether it be intramural, maybe you're an athlete and you do like the actual D3 sport, or you just want to try different things. Like my first year and second year, I joined the capoeira club, and I was doing capoeira for a while, and that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining us on this chat. We're sort of out of time now. For those of you who have additional questions, I definitely invite you to ask them at our QuestBridge@pomona.edu email address. I feel like I've been pushing it a lot, but I'm actually the person who answers that email. So if any of you have emailed in the past, I'm sorry if I haven't gotten back to you yet. I think I have like a couple emails from yesterday, but I work very hard to try to answer your questions as quickly as I can. And so definitely, if you have questions going through, make sure to ask them. We are here in the office to answer your questions. I know sometimes people are a little bit intimidated. They think, I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want to, I'm afraid to pick up the phone and ask, but the best way to find out something is to actually ask about it. And we're here to answer those questions. And I just want to thank all of you for coming by today. Thank you. All right, awesome.